The Arizona Cardinals should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, I couldn't even bring myself to record yesterday. Out of all of the ways to show what this new regime and new team looks like, to put out that product at that time of the season with that much at stake is an absolute and utter embarrassment. It is an absolute and utter embarrassment. There are a couple things that I promise you from now until the start of next season. I will unlock the door to the Kyler Murray conversation. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't have a thought on it yet. Like, I don't have a clear indicator on it yet. And let me explain. I'll explain in the next segment. I mean, Twitter was ablaze. Where do we go from here watching this team? Where do the Cardinals go from here? I'll discuss that in the final segment. But yesterday, to reiterate, if you were putting Q-tips in your ear holes during the first 30 seconds of this podcast, that was an absolute and utter embarrassment yesterday. And it was the first time that I really, and listen, you know, everydayers, you know this very well. This is my 8th season hosting this podcast. And, I've been in sports radio for over a decade and stuff in Phoenix. It's like, I've matured in the sense that I'm not so one side of the spectrum, the other, like wishy-washy. When one thing happens, oh, you got to change it. Oh, you got to change it. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, it's amazing. Like, I take what the information is given to me, and I try to make rational opinions based upon it. Okay. I know that there's been a lot of smoke coming at Drew Petzing this year, at Jonathan Gannon this year, and at Kyler Murray this year. Yesterday was the first game where I was like, what is Jonathan Gannon doing? Why? How is this possible? That the Cardinals could be so out of sorts and so discombobulated in the most important game of the year. In a situation they've put themselves in after the bye, sure. But in a gotta-have-it game against a team you're supposed to beat, to go down 20-3 in the second quarter is something that is an embarrassment. That's not to say the Cardinals are a world beater who's, has Super Bowl aspirations this season. But still, man, you're supposed to beat teams you're supposed to beat. Doesn't matter if it's the morning window. Doesn't matter if it's 30 degrees outside. Doesn't matter if it's on the road. Doesn't matter. You have a better roster. You have a better team. Go win a football game. Dave Canales outcoached Jonathan Gannon yesterday. Drew Petzing continues to be two-faced in the sense that Jekyll and Hyde, maybe that's better. Yeah, let's go with the mental illness one. The Jekyll and Hyde, where, it's sometimes the offense looks perfect and sometimes the offense looks like a college offense. Yesterday felt like losses did during the last regime's era. And it was chilling. Penalties up the wazoo. And they were early. They were early and unnecessary, sure. Well, here's the thing. Everydayers, you'll know this. If this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you. Maybe make tomorrow your second listen. I never think that blaming refs is a good idea. Not because that they're the boogeyman and they're going to come, scare you in your dreams, but because it's a loser mentality to blame the refs. The Cardinals have plenty of opportunities to win that game. The Xavier Thomas roughing the passer call wasn't great. Okay. Kyler Murray got a roughing the passer call for him that's wiped away an interception a couple weeks ago. So that probably wasn't roughing the passer. Okay. They come and go. False starts. Holding. Sure. The offsides on Marvin Harrison Jr. that negated a massive play by Trey McBride early in the game when he said that the ref said he was onside. Whatever. Outside noise. The Cardinals have the better roster. They have the better team. And all they could do was run the ball with James Conner. And yes, of course, absolutely. The defense was terrible against the run. That was the game plan going into it. And for during series when that didn't work, the offense didn't work. Kyler Murray looked lost. And it's coming to a point where earlier in the season it was, they'll figure it out. They got so many weapons. They'll figure it out. And then they did for a large chunk of the middle of the season. They figured it out. Oh, great third down conversion on third and long. Great. The confidence that they'd be able to do that in the middle of a game on a gotta-have-it third down is just, it's not there anymore. I don't know what changed. I don't know what happened. I don't know why the Cardinals got away from the militaristic nature by which they were able to execute during the beginning of the year into their bye week. Least amount of penalties in the league. Regardless of record, having the least amount of penalties in the league as a team is a culture shift. That is a big deal. I'm not just grasping for straws here. That's a big deal. And it's been something the Cardinals have been able to bank upon for the majority of the season. And it's kind of fallen off the last couple of weeks, which it just doesn't make rational sense when the Cardinals have been so prepared for the entire year. They were prepared all year last year. And I know there were no expectations, but they were prepared all year last year. And I don't know what the difference is. I know that the Kyler haters are going to say, it's Kyler Murray. That's a difference. Okay. It's Drew Petzing. That's a difference. The defense didn't have their best day yesterday, but the defense isn't supposed to be the reason why the Cardinals win games in 2024. They have been, but they're incomplete. Plus, they're missing the majority of their upfront players, whether they play well or not. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, B.J. Ojulari. Having said that, the entirety of the team yesterday, they didn't have the one thing that the Cardinals were able to bank on since Jonathan Gannon took over starting week 1 in the preseason of last year. They didn't have their poise. They didn't have any sort of real cohesion. I don't even know if it was they were playing scared. They just weren't playing this new version of Cardinals football. And it doesn't matter how many points you put up. If they don't have that, they've got nothing to build on. And it was a very chilling moment yesterday when Chuba Hubbard walked it off, where everything got put into question. And that's something that is not a very good feeling to have, selfishly, and for you, I'm sure. We can have a kumbaya moment with that. It's a lot to unpack. Got plenty of time to do it before the draft and free agency, before the free agency and draft. I lifted the moratorium on the Kyler Murray conversation. Let's have it. It's going to be light, okay? This is not something that is, get rid of him. Get rid of him. I will never use that voice again, I promise you that. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Betterhelp. Listen, I've been in and out of therapy for, a good chunk of my life, and It helps to balance you when things maybe feel like they're getting away, or you know whatever it is. If you just need a little support, and I guess a question you could ask around this time of year is, how do you stay cozy during the winter months? What moments and things make you happy and cozy at home during December? For some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate or watching a movie with family is the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by TNT College Football Playoff. At that time of year, the College Football Playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bring you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading to our first matchup that we already saw. SMU lose to Penn State. We saw Texas take care of Clemson, even though Clemson hung on for a bit. Make sure to watch the remainder. College Football Playoff presented by Allstate, live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Quick numbers. I mean, oh, yuck. 11 for 82. That's all I really think about here with penalties. I'm past the point where Kyler Murray not throwing for more than between 170 and 200 yards. It's like there's so much to unpack with Kyler that this isn't the conversation I've been dreading or avoiding. It's a conversation that wasn't necessary up until this point. And this is going to have many different iterations, okay? The thesis statement of this segment is, I don't think that this is a must move off of Kyler Murray moment. And just relax with the groans, okay? Well, when's this guy going to learn? I've been saying this forever. Okay, that's fine. My biggest sticking point to this is I watch football all day on Sunday, and I see the quarterback play around the NFL, and I say, yuck. Gross. Get this off my TV. In many instances. Many, many instances. I would say about half of the instances. So that lends me to think, are people expecting too much from Kyler Murray? And by that, the answer is no. Regardless, no. The contract thing is lazy, in my opinion. It's a steal compared to what other teams are paying their quarterbacks who are failing. Remember, only one team wins the Super Bowl, only two teams make it. So I know he's only made the playoffs once in 6 years. I firmly believe that this is the first full season he's had under any sort of stability. Having said that, Kyler Murray is not a pure pocket passer. Okay, he wasn't drafted to be. There are guys who have the dual threat skill set who use it. Kyler Murray running the ball has been kind of an afterthought. And throughout the season, one of the biggest X factors for me was that one or two plays where Kyler Murray takes off and nobody's expecting it. We saw it yesterday with the quarterback speed option with nobody to throw the ball to where he just housed it. It's like, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes use their legs as part of the experience at quarterback because they're maximizing the entirety of their skill set. And all of those guys are over 6'2", I think. I think Jalen Hurts is, maybe 6'1". So just because you want to keep your quarterback protected, of course, and just because Kyler Murray has taken some big hits this year and, he's gotten up, but he's been hobbled, like, I understand protecting your quarterback. And you're also utilizing only 75 to 80% of his skill set by keeping him behind the line of scrimmage for the entirety of the game. And again, had a touchdown run yesterday, but that's one of the biggest conundrums for me. And I don't think Kyler Murray's pining to run the ball and Drew Petzing saying no. So I don't think this is, Drew Petzing's fault, fire him. Fire him, everything will be better. No. I don't think it's not completely anything. It is a grab bag pie chart of the blame game. But opening up the window into the room to open up the door into the Kyler Murray conversation, it's a jar. Bear with me. It's a jar. Yesterday was eye-opening. They had 3 game-winning drives this year with Kyler Murray that people quickly forget. The gaffe at the end of the game, where they were lucky to get the timeout called when Kyler Murray didn't get out of bounds. I would have put that on Kyler Murray, not Jonathan Gannon. Got lucky. Chad Ryland made it, just absolutely housed one from 57. And then the drive after the 4th and 2 conversion from the 18 was an absolute laugher. Coaches can only do so much. He missed a wide open Trey McBride instead with that pick. And listen, the interception was pretty much a punt, okay? But if Trey McBride wasn't wide open crossing the middle of the field. These are the same conversations we have. I know. This wasn't supposed to be the year. And with how this, so let's put it this way, and then I'll pivot to what now, because there's a couple other things I want to talk about from yesterday that have massive future pacing implications. I've been in the camp the entire season. Man, they're playing out of their shoes. This is supposed to be a 5-6 win team, and they've been playing out of their minds. So you take this as a win, you take this season as a success, and you move on to 2025 when they absolutely explode. Until they had their own fate in their hands starting 2 weeks ago against Seattle at home, and they lay an egg. And they beat New England, who they were supposed to beat. They still had the season on their fingertips, and you lose to Carolina. That's a can't happen situation. So yes, everything will be questioned. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What now? What does the rest of the season look like? Just from a glimpse after that loss, and what are you going to be looking for regarding roster building for the future because of those games? I will discuss that next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If you win, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So the Cardinals lose, season over. Yuck. So many more questions than answers, and sometimes question marks aren't good like they were going into the season. I think that this is something that needs to kind of settle a little bit before grandiose discussions need to have. It's just prudent at this time. The plan was always 2025, and I know it sounds like a cop-out. I know it sounds like you're scapegoating. I know I get it. I empathize with you. Okay? I empathize with you. This is just another season that ended poorly, where the Cardinals were in control, they lost control, and they weren't able to get it back. I get it. The redeeming qualities from this season, and we have January, February, March, April. We got time. We've got time. What is that? Almost 100 podcasts between now and then. We've got time. Let's just do like a quick, 2-minute redeeming qualities. 1, Trey McBride, stud. Got him. That's 1. 2, before the offensive line completely, everybody got hurt. Offensive line, solid. They'll probably add 1, if not 2 offensive linemen in free agency or the draft combined. 3, Garrett Williams, stud. 4, Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, taylor-demerson. The Cardinals are going to be fine in the secondary. Max Melton had a tough day yesterday, but played pretty well. And Kazir White and Mac Wilson are good. Okay, so now okay, going into 2023, when they brought back less than half of the roster after the last regime, the defense, DBs, backers in the middle of the field, are solid. Okay, you've got a strength there. You don't have as many question marks. You don't have to go, okay, they need to add 3 corners and a safety and pass rush. It's just D-line and pass rush. So I know that's not what you want to hear right now. Pass rush was non-existent yesterday. Absolutely god-awful. Absolutely terrible. Non-existent. And they don't have any talent in the pass rush room. Darius Robinson it's going to take some time. Baron Browning, got behind a line of scrimmage a couple times before he got hurt. Xavier Thomas had that sack that wasn't, near sack that got called for leveraging his weight on the quarterback, which is stupid, but that's the NFL. Going into free agency in the draft, where you're spending the majority of your dollars, your draft capital on defense, and it's the front. Redeeming quality. That defense is 75% complete. Imagine Garrett Williams and Max Melton and the other DBs with a pass rush. By all accounts, they played excellent football this year. Excellent football. Back to the other side, James Conner, stud. Okay, we'll see if he plays the rest of the year. I don't know if they should, especially after giving him an extension. I don't know how much the numbers matter to him. Just set him. It's like, who cares at this point? And then the what now conversations for the future. I tweeted this out, and I may have been a little hasty. I thought about it for a couple hours before I tweeted it out. I said, there's 2 things that are for certain reactions of mine after the loss. Kyler Murray conversation can begin. I didn't say it's going to go one way or the other. I said we'll start to discuss it. And then number 2, the Cardinals should have traded back. The Cardinals offense would have been exactly the same with Michael Wilson as the wide receiver 1 this year. I firmly believe that. Now you take best player available in a run-first offense where it's James Conner, then Trey McBride. He's going to struggle. He had almost 800 yards receiving so far. It hasn't been a lost season. He's had a bunch of touchdowns, Marv. But what I saw yesterday was a guy that needs to get in the weight room and tighten his game up. Like comeback routes, he doesn't come back for. Or he will, and then later in the game, he won't. 50-50 balls are 0-100 balls. He doesn't come down with any of them. The one thing that Marv is great at, I mean, among other things, like that's not knocking a rookie wide receiver thrust into action where, it's and Kyler Murray's at some fault for that, Drew Petzing as well. The one thing that Marv is incredible at, and he is absolutely wild, and it's massively important. It's not like, oh, he's good at running once he catches the ball. No. When it's him versus the sideline, regardless of where the ball is, he is incredible at catching, putting 2 feet down, and whether it be, in the field of play or in paid or scoring a touchdown. Incredible at it. And we saw it from day one. You can't, you can teach that, but a lot of that is just intuition, knowing how to use your body weight and staying in bounds. Like that is a marvel to watch him do that. But he gets bullied. And again, 50-50 balls aren't great. The 2 throws that Kyler made to him back-to-back, one of those needed to be caught regardless of how good the defense was. That's what wide receiver ones do. And it wasn't. And it put the Cardinals behind the sticks. They ended up losing. That's not why they lost, but that was the last that put him in 3rd and long, and that was it. So the what now for Marv the question that needs to be discussed is Drew Petzing the right offensive coordinator for Marvin Harrison Jr.? And it's like, well, I've been talking about that forever. I understand. We don't know what this is yet. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not easy for Drew Petzing to have an offense and then have a bona fide wide receiver 1 on paper just dropped into it. It's like, what, do you change the entire offense? He was brought in to run this offense. Do you change the entire offense? That's kind of a what now future pacing conversation we'll have. Are the Cardinals so much closer than people think? But because their pass rush is gone and because the offensive line, with Paris Johnson out, they played okay yesterday. It wasn't terrible. Kyler wasn't running for his life the entire game. Is it just the offensive and defensive line that's keeping this team from taking that next step? Is it really just Kyler Murray not being good enough? All of these questions, these aren't rhetorical. These are all just questions. We're gonna unpack this throughout, the next couple months. But for now, it's tough to find any positive that came out of yesterday. And with the season on the line, again, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals offense couldn't get it done. And yes, I put it on the offense yesterday. The defense gave up 36 points. I get it. The defense the defense isn't supposed to be the strength of this team. The offense did not do them any favors. To spot an NFL team 20 points in the first quarter or in the first half, what do you expect? It doesn't matter what their record is. Alex Nancy, Locked On Cardinals. Yeah, remember, I will say with a smile, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.